All right, so today let's use a ball. You can use a tennis ball or any kind of massage ball you might have, a dryer ball. And if you don't have one, I'll give you some other options. And then let's use a chair and a firm blanket, and we'll start with the blanket. And we're going to take the blanket a long direction and roll it up like a tight taquito. So really firm roll that's not too tall. If it were taller, that would be fine too. Just depends on your own body. And we're going to put that across the upper back. Okay, so I'm going to lie down on this. I've got a second pillow for my head. I may or may not use it, but you might want it. I'm going to come down onto my back. Now, this is where people tend to get confused, or if I'm not there looking at you, you might not have it in the right spot. So just trying to get this in the right spot. Where you want it is so that if you spread out your arms in a T position out from your shoulders, the blanket roll would come out right underneath your armpits, right here. Okay. Now, for some of you, if you've got some shoulder stuff going on, if this bothers your shoulders to have your arms out in a T, they don't necessarily have to be out in a T. Okay. But if it feels okay, let's get them out there. And you might find that you need a little more support below your head. Feel free to make a pillow taller for your head. Your knees can be bent. And just take your time coming into it. Make sure that your neck feels supported. Noticing the places where you're making contact with the floor. And as you inhale, let's inhale and really spread the rib cage wide. And then as you exhale, let's do a long exhale out the mouth through pursed lips like you're blowing out through a straw. And repeat. And now you can keep breathing out through the mouth if it feels good to you, or you can let your breath come out through your nose. But let's focus on feeling the breath expand three-dimensionally through your rib cage. So the back ribs against the blanket roll. And then your side ribs kind of going out. And then the front of your rib cage lifting up. Good. And now I'm just going to straighten out my legs, but taking the legs wide, like as wide as my mat. My arms are staying out in a T. I may need to adjust my pillow as I do this. What I'm going to do is start to bring my left arm across my body. And as I do that, I'm going to push into the left heel and kind of roll onto my right side. Now I'm getting a bit of a massage underneath my armpit. So Terry, you're going to want to move that blanket roll all the way underneath your armpits. So the blanket roll is coming out, right? It's coming out underneath the armpits, not below the head. The head is a separate pillow, okay? And then this one's here. So that when you roll onto your side, you get this massage underneath there, okay? And now from here, I'm going to come back onto my back. You can let the head come back onto your pillow. The arms spread out. I've got my arms a little bit up on a diagonal, and now I'm going to take my right arm across. I put a little kick into my right heel, and then I flip onto my left side getting a massage underneath that left armpit, and then come back. And I'm just going to go side to side. And I've started to take my arms a little bit higher up. Yeah, so that blanket roll is not on your upper back. It's not on your shoulders. It's on your upper back, like about at your bra strap level. If you're somebody that wears a bra, it's coming out underneath the armpit. So it's not way up here, or you're just going to be kind of funky. You're not going to be getting the same thing going on. Okay, so it's way down here underneath the armpits by where a bra strap would be. And I'm just going side to side. Good. And then when you come back onto your back, let's stay there for a moment. So the blanket is underneath the chest, like opposite of your chest, not below your shoulders or your neck. Okay. You've got another pillow there, and or just spread out so you can really feel this is to create some thoracic mobility. You're just going to inhale, breathe in again, feeling the rib cage expand three-dimensionally, and exhale. And again. Good. And now let's bend the knees, roll onto your side, and press yourself up. You can remove your blanket roll. And we'll come onto hands and knees. We're going to try to tuck the toes underneath. All right. So you can take your hands back there and get those toes untucked. Okay. And then do some cats and cows here with your toes tucked, and you can press into the feet a little bit. Inhale as you lift the tail chest forward. Exhale as you round. Pressing into your hands. Good. And next time tail is up and chest forward, let's try to sit the heels or the seat back toward the heels with the toes tucked under. So you're stretching out the feet. Okay. Now, if this bothers the knees or the hips, you can't get them back there, you could always take a blanket roll, or I'm using a pillow here to demonstrate, behind the knees to create a little more space. Some people might feel like they can sit up on the heels and stretch out the toes so the toes are tucked under. You can see what works for you here. Just take a couple breaths. Good. And then come forward again. Let's put the feet flat. So now the toenails are facing down. Some people here might need their blanket roll below their ankles as you sit back toward the heels. Or again, you can sit up if this doesn't bother the knees. Okay. And just go back and forth between those two foot stretches. Good. And then next time you come forward, let's tuck the toes under and push off the knees, walking your hands back and then rising all the way up. And when you come up here, let's reach the arms up toward the ceiling, and then exhale, arms out to the sides and down. Good. Now from here, you can always hold on to something here. We're just going to roll around the perimeter of one of your feet. And you can look at it. Let's just start to notice where your foot feels tight, where your foot and ankle feels mobile, and then go the opposite direction as well. Good. And then stand on both feet for a moment and just notice the two sides. Any difference between them? Take a breath in and out. Good. And then let's do the second side. Now, same thing, just tracing the perimeter of one of your feet. Then go the opposite way. And then stand on both feet and notice the two sides. So just noticing the connection with the floor below you, taking a breath in and out. All right, now looking down at your feet, just notice, where are your feet facing? Like, are they pointed out? Is one pointed out and one not? It's kind of getting in the habit of being aware of what your feet are doing, right? And then stand tall. And now notice, where do you feel your weight coming down through your feet? Is it the same on both sides? Is it more on the insides of the feet or the outsides, the heels or the balls of the feet? Just kind of becoming aware of it. Take a couple of breaths there, letting your arms relax and hang. Good. Now, we're just going to do leaning tower to start. So you can have your eyes closed if you're comfortable with it, or you can also keep them open. We're going to lean without going too far so that you have to step forward, just going forward and back. Keep breathing. And just notice what you're comfortable with, how your nervous system responds, and how far forward and back you want to go. Notice as the weight moves to different areas of your feet. And then coming to center, we'll pause for a moment. You can always open the eyes for a moment. And we're going to go side to side. So when we go side to side, it's like this rather than a side bend. Okay, just a lean. And again, you can close your eyes and notice how this feels. Now, there's so many little bones in our feet, and there's proprioceptors, which are nerves that are sending messages to the brain about where the joint is in space, what's happening in the joint. You're playing with all of that. And then you can start to go around in a circle too, where the weight comes forward toward the toes and then to one side of the feet, then back, and then around again. And then go the opposite way. Just notice your whole experience, What I mean is, notice how your nervous system responds, notice how smooth it is or not smooth. And then come back into the center and stand tall. Take a sigh, opening your eyes. All right. So now you may have a sense of your arches here, and just like if they're fallen or not, if they're crashing down. Like, for example, sometimes I might tend to stand with my arches just kind of falling down, kind of disappearing. So you can notice that if it's happening to you, and then looking at your feet, just try to lift all 10 of your toes off the floor as much as you can without the balls of the feet coming up. And when you're looking down at your arches, you might notice that when you do that, that increases the arch. So it's using these extrinsic muscles that lift the arch, meaning that the muscles start in the lower leg, not the foot itself, right? So you can lift and lower a few times. Just notice how that changes things when you extend the toes. Keep breathing. Just notice if it's hard or easy for you to lift your toes. It might be easier on some toes than others, or easier on one foot than others. And you can always play around with this and train them by using your fingers to do it as well. Okay, and now we're going to try to lift or strengthen this arch. So there's a couple of arches in your feet, but we're talking about this long arch here that we typically think of when we talk about the arches, right? So we're talking about that one. And this one I'm going to turn to the side so you can see it. This is another way that now lifts the arch, which is called a short foot exercise. And what I'm doing is I'm drawing my ball of my foot towards the heel. So it's like making my foot shorter a little bit, and my arch has to lift. This is not an easy thing to do. I've done it a lot, so I'm used to doing it. But you can see how I'm lifting the arch and then letting it go. And most people, when they try to do this, they scrunch up their toes to do it, kind of like this. So just try to relax your feet and engage these muscles. And you can try it like maybe 10 times on one side. You can even try holding it, like just holding the engagement for a couple of breaths. And you can try it with the other foot. We want to strengthen our feet. And a lot of times just from footwear, they provide arch support, so our arches don't need to work as hard. All the muscles in our feet don't need to work as hard, so they don't work as hard and they become weaker, right? And it's not like you should throw out all your shoes or your arch support. It takes time to strengthen the feet, so you don't want to go right to barefoot shoes or anything. You want to work on strengthening your feet every day, or as often as you can. Okay, about 10 on the other side. Good. And then just kind of shake out the feet a little bit. You can hold on to something if you want. Shake, 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 shake. Good. And now we're going to massage the bottom of the foot. So we'll use our ball, and you can use a wall or a chair for support. You can even sit down in the chair. So some people just want to be seated doing this. You're going to take the ball beneath one of your feet and stick with that foot to begin with. I'm just going to start by warming up the foot back and forth with the ball. Now, if you don't have any kind of ball, you could sit down and use your thumbs to massage the bottom of the foot. Okay, you can do it that way instead. I do recommend getting a ball if you can. Just going up and down. You can put a lot of weight into it or not, up to you. And you're kind of getting familiar with the bottom of your foot. Okay, are there any sore spots? So we were talking about the plantar fascia before we started recording, and the plantar fascia is this connective tissue that runs along the sole of the foot across the arch into the heel. And you might have heard of plantar fasciitis when this gets inflamed. Some people have heard of that before or had it. It can be quite painful. Okay, and it often presents as pain in the heel. And ice is a good thing for it, a water bottle in the freezer, and then ice and roll it out. This is good for it. Any kind of foot strengthening and calf stretching. Okay, so we'll do a little calf stretching as well. And sometimes rest is necessary too, right? So whenever anything's inflamed, we need to rest it. So you want to make sure you don't do too much, of course. Okay, now that's all. We're not going to do our whole foot massage that we do with these balls. There are lots of other videos that I've done with a lot more with the ball on the sole, because I want to get to some other things too, all for the feet. So let's just step off and feel. Okay, so that was just a little introduction. You can check out, I think they're all labeled under the ball massage videos in the library. So tune in. You can even close your eyes and notice the 2 feet. And just the difference in how they feel. Take a breath in and a breath out. And what I also like to do here is notice the difference in the 2 sides of the body. So you might actually feel a difference up the leg or even further, or even in your breath on the 2 sides of your body. And then let's do the second side. Okay, so again, we're just going to roll it today. We're not doing any of our heel maneuvering. You can push into the heel if you want. I know I didn't say that on the other side, but you can always see what that feels like at the front of the heel. You might notice one foot feels different than the other. Good. And hi, Rhonda, just joining us. We're just using a ball on the bottom of the foot right now, but we're almost finished, but you could always do that for yourself. Good. And then after you've rolled it out a bit more, I'm just going to step down. And I highly recommend going and look for those other videos where we do more with the ball on the bottom of the foot. But let's just notice right now. Follow your breath in and follow it out. Noticing how it feels on both sides of your body, not just the feet. Good. All right, for this next one, I recommend getting a rolled up mat. So if you have a yoga mat, you can just roll up the mat. Mine is really flat. It doesn't roll up into a nice tight roll. So I'm going to use a separate mat. A firm couple of blankets or towels could work too, but I like the mat a little bit better. Okay, and I'm going to take the back of my chair at the front of my mat and put that rolled up mat there. I'm going to set the ball out of my way. What I'm going to do is bring my heels onto the floor. Whew, my calves are tight today. Okay, and the balls of my feet up the mat. And my feet are parallel. So you might, if your calves are tight, when you look down, you might find that your toes point out. We're going to try to point them straight forward so they're parallel. And if you're like, there's no way, my calves are too tight to do that, then unroll the mat a little bit so it's not as high. You could, just take some of it out. Okay, or this way, I guess is the way we do it. Okay, but you do want to feel a stretch. Okay, I'm going to roll mine back up because I need it higher. All right, so we're going to hold the back of the chair, and what you're going to try to do is lift your heels off the floor and come up onto the balls of your feet like this. So you're just doing this. And you could also hold a wall, because even for me, and I'm really short, I feel like the chair is a little low when I come up, right? So you could be holding a wall or another piece of furniture instead. And I'm just going up and down, doing some calf raises here. Let's go up for a count of 2. 1, 2, up. 1, 2, down. And breathe. Inhale up. Exhale down. Notice how this is feeling. So we're strengthening the calves and we're stretching them, right? We're taking them through this full range of motion here. When you go up, you're working the calf. You might feel that. And when you go down, we're stretching it out. But this is also a great one because you're having to use the feet a lot to balance here, and the toes are moving through extension. So it's also a good arch strengthener for that long arch we've been talking about. Let's do a couple more. Okay, now next time you lower the heels, we'll just stay here for a moment and breathe. Now, if you're getting a good stretch where you are, you can just stay here for a couple more breaths. You might even feel like you have to make the roll smaller because it's too intense. Or if you can keep the knees straight, you could also hinge if you want a little different of a stretch. For me, it's not that it's less or more intense to go down, it's just different. Kind of gets to a different part of my calf. So I even want to go further down, but I don't have space, so I'm going to back up. Right? You could come toward the floor or just hold something lower. Whew, and breathe. You can look at your feet if you're leaning forward and just check and see if they're parallel. Try to soften your neck and your jaw. And let's try to take 3 more slow breaths. Good. And then slowly, if you're leaning forward, bend the knees to help yourself come up, stand up, and come off your mat. So also what that can work on, depending on how high your prop was, and you can unroll your mat or set the other one to the side, is this dorsiflexion of the ankle. And dorsiflexion of the ankle is when the ankle's pulling up like that rather than pointing down. Okay. And that can be tough too for people, right? And contribute. All right. So now let's stand. Tadasana, mountain pose. Notice how you feel now through feet, ankles, calves, whole body. Let's inhale, arms come forward and up. Stretch way up. And exhale, arms out to the sides and down. And again, inhale, arms forward and up. Reach way up. And exhale, out and down. Great. Okay, plantar flexion of the ankle and toe flexion. I'm going to take one foot back. Now, just to get a little closer. So yeah, my toes are going into flexion. They're kind of scrunch up, the toenails are facing down. But I've also got my toe pointed, right? My ankle pointed. That's called plantar flexion. If you start to get a cramp, you can walk around and get it to come out or roll the ankle in and out of this. For me, I feel the stretch right now on the top of my foot. And I also a little bit in the front of my ankle. Depending on the day, sometimes I feel this in the front of my shin. So just noticing, what your experience is. Breathing in and breathing out. Okay, and then let's switch sides. Other foot goes back, same thing. About 5 to 7 slow breaths. Good, and then come off of that, and let's just do a few bounces. Just knees can be soft. Just bounce, 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 bounce. And now let's do something that's more of a heel drop. So instead of being so bouncy like a trampoline, I'm just going to drop my heels. It's kind of jarring through my body a little bit. And then come down. All right, let's turn the seat of the chair toward us. The front of the mat. I'm going to inhale, reach arms up. Exhale and fold. Inhale, extend spine forward. And then exhale, I'm going to step the right foot so the toes are hidden beneath the chair. Left heel back. Okay. So let's get set up. I know a lot of you have done this a bunch with me before. But I'm going to draw my foot even further under the chair. And then I've got my hands on the chair, but I'm not putting a lot of my weight on it. Okay, my legs are holding my weight. And I'm going to practice turning, and I'm going to show it from this direction so you can see it. I'm going to lift the toes into extension. So just like when we were trying to lift the arch and we lifted the toes off the floor. And then I'm going to try to keep it like that and come onto the pinky toe edge of the foot. So mine will be under the chair. So you won't be able to see it. So it'll be just like this. So it's just lifting a little bit, but I'm keeping those toes lifted even when I come on. So I'm just doing a little bit more with foot and ankle strengthening here. All right. So you're here. I've got the support of my hands too, so it's less work than what I was just doing and showing you. And you can even look at it. So if you want to bring the chair further forward so you can see it, you can do that too. I'm noticing what's happening in my hip and knee, making sure I don't have any pain in the knee. Right? And another breath here. Good. And then can put the foot flat again, and let's press back to a chair downward dog, or you can always do a floor down dog. Following your breath in and out. Again, in and out. All right, inhale, bend the knees. Exhale, step left foot forward. We're going to do the same thing. This time, I'm going to keep my foot out from under the chair because I kind of liked being able to see it. It just depends on how this feels on your shoulders and neck. Now, I'm going to lift the toes up, extend the toes, and then I'm going to see about coming onto the pinky edge of that foot. And I walked my back foot back a little further, taking a couple of breaths. And then putting the foot flat back down on the floor and stepping that back leg forward. And inhale, reach your chest forward. Exhale, bend the knees. And then inhale, stand all the way up. And exhale, arms out and down. All right. For balance support for this next piece, you might want your chair next to you. You might not need it. Okay, so I would just have it like that if I was going to. I'm going to step right foot forward, left foot back, like a mini warrior one pose. And I'm just checking out my foot, my front foot. I'm just kind of looking down at it, remembering that arch thing. I've got my knee bent, the front one, over the ankle, right? So it's not over the toe like this. It's just over the ankle. And I'm going to lift all my toes up again, or try to. You might not be able to. Just looking down at that arch. Now, what's happening with the back arch? Is it falling toward the floor? You might feel like it is, right? It might be kind of going down and in like this. See if you can press down through the back pinky toe ball of the foot. And so that if you were to look back there, and you can do this, let's look back there. Look down at your back foot and just see, could you have like it almost like a little cave? So if you had a little pet, whatever you might want your pet to be. I don't know if you guys like bugs, like a little pet ladybug or something, it wouldn't get smushed, or a little pet, very small toad or frog. I don't know what you want back there, but a little cave that your pet could be in. Now, if your arch, you might not have very big arches. I have high arches, so mine's pretty high, right? So just like whatever bug you think could fit up there, can you lift it, right? And then straightening up. So you're in this mini warrior one with these strong arches. Now, your toes don't have to stay lifted. They could come down. Can you keep the arch feeling like it's lifting? If you don't need balance support, you might even take the arms up and be in a mini warrior one or a regular warrior one pose. Let's take 3 breaths here. Maybe your gaze or your eyes want to lift up a little bit. 2 more breaths. Let's spread your fingers wide. And 1 more breath. Good. And then let's bring the arms down and step forward. Good. Switching sides. You can turn around if you like having the support on the front leg side, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Now, first we're just going to work on the feet. My feet are hips distance apart. I'm noticing what my front foot wants to do naturally, as well as the back foot. And then I'm going to experiment with it. I'm going to see about lifting the front toes, noticing what happens to the arch. We didn't do this on the other side, but you could also relax the toes and try a short foot exercise instead. And then how about your little cave for your little pet in the back? You can check out your back foot, seeing if you can use the whole foot, keeping the foot strong rather than letting that arch and ankle collapse down. So we're strengthening the ankles as well. To do that, and I didn't mention this before, so my foot, I have a lot of dorsiflexion in that back ankle, so my foot can be forward. Yours doesn't have to be. So the foot might have to turn out to the side to be able to have the heel on the floor and the arch lifted. Okay, see how I did that? It was here, and I just did this. Okay, then if you want to take the arms up, you can. We'll try to spread fingers wide and breathe. Let's do 3 slow breaths. Good, and then bringing the arms down, stepping forward, and then let's swing and twist, letting the arms flop around. Noticing how your spine feels, your shoulders, and still staying connected to your feet. Good. And then let's come back to the center. So you can step wide on your mat if you need the stickiness of the mat. You also might want your chair in front of you. And we're going to be going, let me just show you first so you know, we're going to be going into what the Sanskrit is Skandasana type pose, which is side to side, okay? But we're going to work with the ankles. So some people might want support of their chair in front of them as they do that, right? Just a little extra balance support from the seat or the back of the chair. So get yourself set up however you think it'll work. I'm not going to use that so you can see me a little better. Okay, so I've got my feet parallel to start. I'm inhaling, feeling the balls and heels of both feet, and then just look down. Do you have your arches there? Just notice what's happening. And it's good. You want your feet to be able to pronate. That's when your arches fall. Your foot needs to be able to move through all of these. We're just working on this today, right? We're just working on ankle strength and foot strength across this particular arch. So I'm going to start bending one knee and then the other. And as I do it, I'm letting my hips go back, right? I'm not doing this with my spine. My hips aren't tucked under. I'm reaching the hips back, going side to side. And I'm going to let my ankles and feet move however they want at first. And now I'm going to start playing around with the ankles. So I'm going to, as I go bend the left knee, I'm going to come onto the big toe edge of the right foot. And then as I go to the right knee, I'm going to come on to the big toe edge of the left. And I'm going to try to keep the toes pulling up a little bit as I do that. Good. And then coming up to center, let's wiggle the feet a little closer. This one you might need balance support as well. This time, I'm going to have my feet about shoulders distance apart. Let's see. I think the support would want to be on your right. If you're using it, I'm going to bring my right foot back behind and across. See, this is how it looks. My left knee is bent, and I'm on the pinky toe edge of my back foot. Okay, I'm lifted up, and I'm just seeing how that feels through knee, hip, ankle. I'm pulling the toes toward the foot. Good, and then I'm going to lift back up. I'm going to turn around if I want support. Same thing, right foot stays, left foot comes behind, and I'm on the pinky edge of that left foot. Good. Breathing. Good, and then come up, stand. Now, back of chair or seat of chair in front of you, I'm going to stand with my right foot crossed in front of my left. So I'm making an X with my legs. It's okay to have your knees bent. I've got my whole foot on the floor. Balls and heels. Okay. I'm going to start to hinge at the hips. Might need to back up. And as I do that, I'm going to try to lift the toes off the floor, extending the toes, and then come onto the pinky edges of the feet. The pinky edges of the feet, toes pulling up. So my ankles are intact, they're not sickling. And I'm just stretching here for a moment. You could always go down toward blocks or the floor if that's something you want to do. Good, and then slowly come up and just switch. So now left crosses in front of right. You can start with your feet grounded. See how that feels. Then you can lift the toes, hinge, roll onto pinky edges. You can fold downward as far as you want. About 3 slow breaths. Good. And then slowly come up, uncross. Let's take your hands to your hips and inhale, roll the shoulder heads back. Good. Squeezing the elbows toward one another if you can. And then exhale, slowly fold forward. You can use the chair or not. And come down to the floor. Okay, we're going to have a seat on the floor. You can sit up on a pillow if you'd like. And we're going to try to sit in Sukhasana pose, which is easy pose, easy seat. Cross-legged is, it's not necessarily easy. That's just the translation of it. Okay, so it's easy pose, easy seat, and it's cross-legged, but we're going to do it a little funny. So it's actually, I think it actually has a different name when we do it like this, but it's escaping me right now. So I'm crossing at the ankles here. And do you see, I'm doing the same funky thing with my feet where I'm on the pinky edges of my feet and my toes are drawing back toward the feet. Now, some people are extremely tight here where your legs might feel like they have to be up or you're really rounded. So feel free to put as much as you need below your hips to lift your hips up. That helps. And you could also put blocks like this. Do you see this? Just supported with blocks. And I'm able to be on the pinky edges of the feet. My legs are a little more engaged. Yeah. Good. And then you can lean back and just switch. So now the other ankle crosses in front. And I'm trying to, so for me, because this doesn't bother my hips at all, I could be doing this and my knees relax down, right? But I'm still on the pinky edges, my toes are pulling back. You may need to be up a little higher with the knees in order to get it. Okay, try to sit up tall. You can always prop behind your back, breathing in and out. Good. Okay, now let's take the soles of the feet together. Okay, knees coming out. Again, you could use props. In Baddha Konasana, you could have hands behind back here, or you could hold your ankles or even your feet. And what I'm doing here is I'm pressing the balls of my heels of my feet together, and I'm kind of pulling the toes apart from one another. Noticing the arches, or you could also give yourself a little rub on your feet. Good. All right, then bringing the knees up. So what I would recommend here is I'm going to use this chair. You could also do legs up the wall. We're going to do a twist first, but then because this is a metal chair, I'm going to put a blanket over the back. Because later I'm going to put my legs up there just to get a little leg elevation. I'm going to put my pillow here. And before I go into that, since we didn't do much on the floor at the beginning, is I'm just going to do a few windshield wipers. You could do any kind of twist. You could hold a twist. You could keep it moving like this. Good. And then I'll get a little bit closer to my chair. And I'm going to take my legs just up. So it's like a little mini legs up the wall. And if you're more flexible, you can get your butt up against the wall or close to the chair. And if you're less flexible, if it feels really tight in your hamstrings when you do this, just back it up away or even bend the knees if that's more comfortable over the seat of the chair, which is fine too. Could roll the ankles a few times. Take a few sighs. Let your jaw relax, your face relax. Notice how this feels through your legs. Tracing your legs with your mind's eye, just kind of feeling it from the feet down the legs to the hips. Noticing your back on the floor and your shoulders and arms. And the back of your head. Feeling as though you could drop a little bit deeper into the floor, letting go of effort. If you find your mind really busy, if you can, just let that begin to go into the background. Let all the busyness of your mind be there. And in the foreground, kind of feeling the floor below you, noticing your breath as it comes in and out. Softening your face and your jaw. And inviting that softness to move into your whole body.